everyone and welcome back to another video on my channel PokePidge. On June 24th, hopefully day of this release, we are going to be getting a Pokemon Presents presentation. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Hopefully we're going to be getting a new main series Pokemon game announcement, hopefully a new core series game. Now many people have been speculating that it may be the Generation 4 remakes, that's, Pokemon Diamond, Pokemon Pearl, Pokemon Platinum even. Now these games were released in 2006, that's 14 years ago, so they are long overdue a little bit of attention. Now since its release, obviously we've seen the regions of Generation 5, 6, 7 and 8, and we've also seen the remakes of Generations 1, 2 and 3. So we have literally visited every region except Generation 4's Sinnoh region since its first release. However, is it too early for these Generation 4 remakes? I've been having a little look into this, I've even been doing some maths on the subject, and I think I've come up with two sides of the argument, and you can choose whichever one you want to. However, I'm going to try and present evidence for both sides. Will it be the remakes? Will it not? We shall see. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the evidence. Firstly, to try and prove that the Generation 4 remakes will be revealed on the 24th of June, we have to look at the history of all Pokemon game releases. So first up, approximately 1998, we had the Generation 1 games Red, Blue and Yellow. This was then quite closely followed by Generation 2's Gold, Silver and Crystal, spreading across 99 to 2000. After that, Generation 3's Ruby and Sapphire in 2002, and a couple of years after that in 2004, we had Generation 1 remakes Fire Red and Leaf Green. And just as an FYI, Emerald was also released in this year. This then takes us on to 2006 with the Diamond and Pearl releases. 2008 saw Pokemon Platinum, 2009 Heart Gold and Soul Silver. We don't need to know about Generation 5 onwards, this is all we need to know up to. Now they are all the core series releases up to Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but if we look at just the remakes, we can see that there's a kind of a pattern. Now the first remake was the remake of the first games released, Red, Blue and Yellow, in Fire Red and Leaf Green, in 2004. Now next up is a remake of the second release, of course, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, in 2009. After that, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, remakes of the third games, believe it or not. That was in 2014. The next remake was technically a remake of the remake. Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were technically next, released in 2018. So as you can see here, the first four remakes actually closely resemble the first four releases of Pokemon games in general, not just the four generations. And what's more interesting is the years that they were released. Now between Red, Blue and Yellow and their remakes of Fire Red and Leaf Green, there were 6 years. Jump to the gap between the Gold, Silver, Crystal games and their remakes, there was a 9-year gap. Then we go to the Generation 3 games and their gap, and that was plus 12 years. And if you really want to get into it, the difference of the remake between Fire Red, Leaf Green and Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee was 14 years. Now as you can see here, the gap between remakes gets increasingly larger, almost by plus 3 years every time. So if we were to get Diamond and Pearl remakes next year in 2021 at the earliest opportunity, that would be a plus 15-year gap from Diamond and Pearl's 2006 release, and that would carry on this trend. Also, if we look at what consoles the remakes were made on, then we can see a sort of pattern. If we go to Game Boy Advance, we get the first Pokemon remake, Fire Red Leaf Green. Then the next Nintendo handheld console released was the DS, in which we got Generation 2 remakes. And then the next console after that, the 3DS, in which we got Generation 3 remakes. I think you can see where I'm going with this. The next handheld console after the 3DS is the Nintendo Switch. It's not solely handheld, I know that, but it does look like Nintendo have fused their handheld and home consoles into one now with the Nintendo Switch, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's all we get. With the Switch being the next handheld game, we are due a remake if that pattern carries on. Game Boy Advance to DS to 3DS to Switch, so Gen 4 remakes are a possibility. Also, if we look at the actual Sword and Shield games to see if we can get any clues in there are a couple of little things dotted about. My favourite, for example, is that you can find the Pixie Plate within this game. Now, plates are items that Arceus uses to change its type. A Pixie Plate, for example, makes it a Fairy type. And Arceus is a Gen 4 Pokemon. You can't get Arceus in Sword and Shield, not even with any of these DLCs that are coming in. Even data miners have found that you can't get Arceus yet, so what is the point of having a Pixie Plate in there at all? Maybe it is just to tease the upcoming Gen 4 remakes, who knows, but it's pretty interesting nonetheless. Also, this little Croagunk statue in Hop's house is quite interesting. It's not just a throwaway bit of furniture, it's actually based on something you find in the Pokemon Center in the Generation 4 games. Now why would they texture an item like that to then just have it sitting around in someone's bedroom not doing anything? It feels like they've already textured something with a Generation 4 remake and they thought, Let's just put a little hint in there. And that's what they've chose. Now, even though I went into some mathematical detail with trying to prove that the Gen 4 remakes are coming, I did actually struggle to find any sort of evidence to say that they were. I had to properly hunt down some videos on YouTube to find evidence and really have to Google quite hard on the internet to find any evidence that the Gen 4 remakes were coming. And every time I found some sort of evidence, it was always the same thing. It was usually the Pixie Plate Croagunk statue sort of thing, or it was the console releases. No one else really had any other solid evidence that Gen 4 remakes were coming. So having to physically hunt down evidence to show that these games were coming was probably not in its favour. Also, the trailer itself last week that teased to us about an upcoming new trailer showed a lot of Generation 2 Pokemon in the background. Now, I know I did all the maths earlier about remakes and everything, however, I do think that Let's Go Johto games may be a more likely announcement just because of this shot. Now, you can see the evolutions in the corner there. You've just got Espeon and Umbreon, Generation 2 Pokemon. You've got the Legendary Beasts from Generation 2. If I remember rightly, you've got Lugia and Ho-Oh from Generation 2. We had Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee on the Switch and they were very successful. And the Pokemon creators at the time were saying that if these games were successful, they would be a series. And obviously they were. So it could be more likely that the Let's Go Johto games are coming out next. Who knows? Now, another point that people try to make on the Gen 4 remakes coming is the percentage of representation of each generation's Pokemon within the new Sword and Shield games. Yep, I know that's a mouthful, but bear with me on this one. For example, 62% of Generation 1's Pokemon are available on Sword and Shield as of the Isle of Armor update. If we go to Generation 2, it's 47%. Generation 3 is as low as 36.3%. And then Generation 4 itself, 45.8%. Generation 5, 73.1%. Generation 6, 56.9%. And 7, 69.3%. Obviously not worth putting Generation 8, that's obviously 100%. So as you can see, the percentage of representation hasn't even got Generation 4 as the lowest, that's Generation 3. But either way, they are my fors and against Generation 4 remakes being announced on the 24th of June, hopefully today. Which side are you going to be on? Do you think they're coming or do you think they're not? I don't know, we shall see. But that's it from me for today. Sorry there was no purple suit, it's about 30 million degrees here and it was too hot to wear. If you like this video, do leave a like, do subscribe if you want to see more from me, and if you feel it deserves it, share it with a friend, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, do whatever the hell you want if you like it. But for now, like I say, it's all from me and I'll see you later. Goodbye.